Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Marine Corps Suicide Prevention Podcast, where we think about, talk about, and address the physical, mental, spiritual, and social components of the prevention of death by suicide. I'm your host, Dr. TJ Owen, Suicide Prevention Capabilities Section Head here at Headquarters Marine Corps Behavior Programs. The Lethal Means Safety Podcast episodes are going to be nested within our Suicide Prevention Connectedness Series podcast. The purpose of these podcasts is to promote lethal means safety throughout the Marine Corps. During this episode, we will be speaking specifically about firearm safety, and we'll be doing so with one of our expert marksmen, Staff Sergeant George A. Goking, Staff SNCOIC of the Marine Corps Multigun shooting team. Good morning, Staff Sergeant. Thank you for joining us. If you would, please tell our listeners something about yourself and share some of your experiences as a Marine.
Good morning, sir. I'm the current USMC shooting team's Multigun team Staff SNCOIC. By trade, I'm a DAS Marine, an air support operations operator. I work in something called the Direct Air Support Center. Essentially, all the ground pounders out there, whenever they need air, or whenever air needs routing through close airspace, that's us. Golden hour. Hashtag get people home. Hashtag give them aircraft with weapons. And I've been in for a little under 10 years now. Well, about to be, just shy of it. And right now, my focus is being on the Multigun team and pushing our mission to enhance Marine Corps lethality and for us to bring Marines back home to superior marksmanship.
Okay. Well, thank you, Staff Sergeant. And again, thank you for being willing to have this conversation with us. I want to start today's conversation by stating that the primary methods that Marines who died by suicide were actually firearms. And second to that is hanging. Firearms alone is about 61%. Or accounts for about 61% of the deaths by suicides in the active duty component of the Marine Corps. Addressing this issue, unlike we would do in the population or the civilian population, is a tad bit more difficult because comfort with weapons or being around lethal means is something that is a way of life for Marines. So Staff Sergeant, tell us, how would you, as an expert marksman and leader of Marines, address this issue?
So from what I've seen in the amount of time I've been in, is that Marines, regardless of MOS, community, whatever part of the Marine Corps you're in, right? Marines go through some form of physical, mental, spiritual, and social distress, either constantly or extremely at certain points in their career. This is a normal thing. This is the nature of being a Marine. Our organization is a fast-paced, performance-oriented organization where you have to do the things right now, but you have to do it really well. And if you don't know how to do it, we'll figure it out. So it can be a rough place to work in sometimes, notwithstanding how fulfilling it is. And off the bat, I can say that in my experience serving the competition in arms program for about a year and a half now. It's not our primary mission, but it just so happens that whenever we run our matches where we train Marines and sailors for about a week and then have them compete against each other for the second week, and hopefully they can come home with really cool shiny badges, which are 10 times cooler than the normal qualification badges, by the way. And if you want to get one, please look up MARADMIN 441/22
Right.
and wait for a match to come to your area. And it's cathartic. You know, people love doing it. We have individuals, regardless of rank, just talking about marksmanship, you know, having a good time, and just letting loose and de-stressing. And you can see it in their eyes how much, like from day 1 until day 3, 4, or even 5, there's definitely a change in mood where Marines are like, wait a minute, this is a really nice place to be in right now. I can start to relax and maybe let my hair down a bit and do some cool stuff while I'm out here. And it's fantastic. You know, for a while we've had this available to veterans outside of the military to go to events like shooting events like this and help really de-stress. And a lot of people to this day still do it. Like you'll have vets who have total organizations where they just shoot competitively, and that's what keeps them going in life, and that's what gives them like. I've had a conversation with a veteran who's just like, all right, you know, well, I don't remember if this was a conversation or a story I heard in a conversation, but there was a veteran who would say, okay, let me just make it to this next match. Okay, you know what? You know, I'm excited for the next match. You know, and he just goes from one competition to another, and he just keeps on going, and that's what gets him through in life. And I'm glad we have it here now.
Okay, thank you, Staff Sergeant. So, you know, just let me make sure I'm hearing you correctly. What you're saying is safely handling weapons or learning how to safely handle a weapon, it can be a helpful thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I'll use my personal experience. There was a time before I joined the shooting team, I used to do this on my own. Since I was a Lance Corporal, I would do this because it wouldn't matter how bad my week was. And if you've ever been a junior Marine in the United States Marine Corps, hit like and subscribe. You probably had it rough to start out with. And I needed something to help cope with it. And those were my weekends. I was shooting matches. It was almost healing. It would get me ready for the next week. And I'll say, like, I'm a 32-year-old staff sergeant right now with back problems, and for some reason they tend to go away while I'm shooting, and then they come right back when I get home. So it's one of the reasons I still keep my energy levels up, though, because I enjoy what I do, and I enjoy watching other people enjoy it as well.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you, Staff Sergeant, and that's wonderful to hear, because I can definitely attest to the healing effect of such activities. Let me ask you, though, how do you think our Marine Corps culture, you know, in that every Marine is a rifleman, how do you think that affects acceptance of lethal means safety protocol?
So for the non-Marine listeners on this podcast, the every Marine a rifleman is a way of describing that there is no rear area in the battle space. We've seen it in Korea, a little bit in Vietnam, definitely in the last decade of warfare that our organization has gone through. Like, doesn't matter who you are, what your MOS is. If you're out there, there is a likelihood that you too can catch some lead. So you might as well be prepared. And what that does is we put a greater emphasis on being able to handle a rifle specifically, or any firearm within the organization, how to handle one effectively so that we can use it to, in the event that we are caught in that really bad situation. And that just means that we spend a lot more time getting good at, manipulating firearms than a lot of other people.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about firearm safety protocol a little bit more, if you would.
So the firearm safety protocol in the Marine Corps, we do a pretty good job at preventing accidental mishaps and negligent firearms related mishaps. Now, the thing is, there's not a whole lot you can do. No amount of safety protocols, no amount of policy that you can do to stop someone from performing a deliberate action. And I'm gonna share this with I'm gonna share to everybody here kind of what we do as instructors over the Marine Corps shooting team. A lot of times, before we even look at the target, we are going to look at the shooter. See what the shooter's doing. Okay, what's his stance doing? What's his grip look like? Is he what's going on? I'm going to try to see what's going on in his head to see what's really causing his issues in shooting. And I'm going to take that back to being a staff NCO. Okay, before I see what my Marines are doing, I'm going to see what my Marine is going through. I'm going to go look at one of my sergeants, one of my corporals. All right, something's a little bit off. Might have to friggin' start scanning the freaks to see what's going on with this individual and see what might be getting in the way of his day-to-day life. And that's how I kind of treat it. It's like, instead of the hows, I want to see what are the whys. Why is this Marine doing this? Why did that Marine do that? What went on?
Okay. So if I'm hearing you correctly, Staff Sergeant, I believe that you're touching on something that I believe is very important when it comes to the prevention of suicide in the Marine Corps, and that is leadership. What does an effective leader look like in regards to suicide prevention, Staff Sergeant, and how can looking at the shooter first, vice the target, help in that area?
So, leadership. A very common saying, a lot of things can be traced back to leadership. Leadership, especially as you go up higher, it gets difficult. It's a very difficult thing to do. You have to put a lot of time, effort, emotional energy into what you do. And a lot of times, we get pulled away. Our perspectives starting to get a little bit skewed because of like tasking and our day-to-day lives, that we forget to pay attention and continue to connect, have some level of connectedness with our subordinates, our peers, even our superiors. And something that we always I guess Marines, we kind of brag about, or it's part of our identity. We are the types of individuals, the types of people that no matter what, under any condition, we will bring somebody home. There have been lots of accounts of Marines freaking dragging their teammates, their buddies, their squad mates, back to safety, even with firepower being amassed their direction. It is a normal thing. That is a Marine thing to do. But back in garrison, sometimes we forget that concept. It's we always say we'll do that in combat because that's what my predecessors did. But what are we doing back in garrison right now? Is there a Marine that's going through that figurative, is out there in some figurative battle space that they probably might need to be dragged back to safety? Hey, what's one of my sergeants going through? Hey, Sergeant so-and-so, what's going on? Talk to me. We forget that our Marines, might need a little saving even when you can't see it.
I see. So, you're touching on some great stuff as Staff Sergeant. One of the things that we are trying to do is to increase the amount of acceptance across the Marine Corps when it comes to help, meaning go and get help. So my question for you now is, how does leadership affect the Marines' willingness to seek help when they're facing the stressors of life or issues in their life?
So, just what our conversation has led to, we go through a lot. You don't have to be a Marine. You can just be in a upper managerial position to know that there's a lot of stuff going on, and it's sometimes hard to direct your attention to certain places, even though sometimes there are certain things that might require that priority. And as leaders, we even though we know this is a fact, we tend to forget that each one of our Marines has their own life, has a personal life, has their own individual problems. They go through their own stuff just like we did when we were in their position. It's not a cookie cutter thing. Not every Marine's going to be complaining about the chow hall and that's all they're worried about, or that they have field day. There are Marines going through stuff. People have families. People have relationships, and we forget that straight up. We forget that as Marines. I'm a staff sergeant right now, and I have to remind myself to use that extra emotional energy and pull back to see what's going on right now, because if you're as a staff sergeant in the Marine Corps, there's a lot of things you have to do, and it can be really rough. So I shout out to all my staff sergeants out there. How we doing? You guys doing good? But that's a good place to start. Let's just see what's going on with pay attention to your Marines, see what's happening, and there's nothing wrong with spending just that little bit more energy just to make sure that your Marines are doing well. And I'm a mission oriented individual, big mission oriented individual. I obsess over the mission of I obsess over the one in my current unit, and I've obsessed over the one in my previous unit. And I think one of the most popular questions people ask, it's well, what's more important, mission accomplishment or troop welfare? And as a quality-based individual, I'm all about really good products and good output. I have to say my opinion on the matter is it's both. You can't have one without the other, just like you said earlier, sir. If I can make sure my Marines are doing well, they can give me a much better product, which means that I'm going to accomplish this mission with everyone else on the team much better. So that's kind of how I see it. And looking back at me when I was in their position, it was those leaders that made me feel like I was part of a team, and honestly cared more about me than I cared about myself. And it enabled me to do some things that I didn't know I could do, straight up.
Well, it sounds to me like you're talking about modeling, and that you also had a lot of experience with some good leaders in your life. So, still on the topic of leadership, maybe you can tell us a couple things that were key qualities of the leaders that you experienced in your life.
So, every Marine can has a handful of leaders that they remember the most. For me, like what I said, I had leaders that cared more about me than I cared about myself, and a lot of those leaders are the reason I'm still in. And this is probably an unpopular opinion, because I think sometimes we misinterpret being like these invincible marble figures of Marines, that we forget that we're all human. Everybody knows that. I've had leaders where they were fantastic, and every now and then I saw them when they were vulnerable and just honest about it. And for me, I understand. I'm a human being too, and for me that made for a more sincere connection between myself and them. And hey, contrary to popular belief, the cool thing is, just because you're a subordinate doesn't mean you can't take care of your superiors. So there were times when I had senior Marines not in a good spot, and guess what? They helped me out. They took care of me. Now I can take care of them for just a little bit, so they can get back to taking care of me and my fellow Marines. And that's I'll tell you, that's what I remember the most. And it comes in different packages too. Some of them were abrasive, some of them were quiet, but they all genuinely cared. You would overlook all this other stuff, like all that other stuff.
All right, that's awesome. So, as we wrap things up here a little bit, how can we expand the conversation around lethal means safety and suicide prevention, all the while encouraging more lethal means safety, not just in firearms, but in other means?
So, whenever we go out to do our competitions, whenever we go out to train people, we spend a lot of time with marksmanship training units, companies, and all similar types of elements to that. And we spend a lot of time with them. We help update them on marksmanship techniques and training methods, to make things better and even save time in the process. But at the same time, we go out and we teach them how to be, from our experience, better safety officers, better range officers, so they can better understand the signs of here's a really just a offshoot of an example, okay, now as a better RO, I can tell when earlier than a less trained RO, the signs of some accident, some sort of mishap that's about to happen. So they can see that, oh, this individual is looking kind of flimsy, so they're probably going to do something weird with a gun, and now they can spot it earlier and prevent it from happening. Mm-hmm. But to tie that back into leaders, in the realm of suicide, for us to be able to find those signs earlier than later, just because we're paying attention, or paying attention a little bit harder, or spending more time paying attention, those are things that we need to dial into in order for us to prevent these things from happening, preventing suicide from happening. Because I think it's definitely no mystery that this is going on quite a bit in our organization, and that's not a good thing.
All right. Well said, Staff Sergeant. Really appreciate everything you've said, and I believe overall what I'm hearing is a great call for action for all of our leaders. As leaders, we should be familiarizing ourselves with firearm safety, suicide prevention strategies, and knowing that all of that can assist in developing and executing a more effective plan when it comes to approaching our subordinates and teaching them how to handle the stressors of life. Leaders, young leaders and old leaders, should really identify their leadership qualities and traits and characteristics and determine how they can be a better leader. One of the important parts of being a leader is knowing yourself and seeking self-improvement. So how can I do that? Get in a place where I can better support my Marines when they're going through difficult times. Again, thank you, Staff Sergeants, for being with us, and thank you to our listeners for joining us here at the Marine Corps Suicide Prevention Podcast. If anyone would like to know more about how they can get involved We ask that you check us out on the Manpower and Reserve Affairs website. Click Active Marine, drill down to Marine and Family Programs, Behavior Programs, and then Suicide Prevention Capability. You can also email us at hqmcspc@usmc.mil. If you or someone you know is in crisis or at risk for suicide, reach out, connect with CARE, or call the Military Crisis Line at 988, press 1. Or you can call the Military One Source at 800-342-9647. Until next time, I am Dr. T.J. Owens, your host, reminding you that suicide is preventable if we empower ourselves and others with the knowledge, tools, and resources to do so.